G'day guys, Markee here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. As always, I'm glad that you're here to watch another episode, and if you do like it and you're new here, hit that like button, hit the subscribe, and the bell notification so you don't miss an upload. With that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the barbie, let's get right into it. Cheers. Posted by a deleted user, titled, "My boyfriend comes home injured every day and he won't tell me why. I, 26 female, live with my boyfriend, 23 male, and he's the love of my life. He's always been honest with me about everything, but recently I feel like he's hiding something bad from me. Because for 2 months, every time he returns home after work, he's bruised and injured. Not like a small injury either, but really visible injuries like bruises, cuts on his abdomen, legs, etc. Bad injuries. The worst injury he had was around 13 days ago. He came home at midnight and I was still awake doing some work, and his whole hair and face was messed up. He has a middle part and it was like some of it was cut off, and he had bad swelling in his cheekbone area. He also had a black eye. When I saw him, I was trying to ask him what the hell happened to him, and he just told me he didn't want to talk about it. Oh, and ignore the horse head on the bed. That means nothing. We're not swimming with the fishes out here. I've tried to do anything just to get some information from him, but he refuses to give me any. He keeps telling me not to worry about it. I've told him that I'd also go to the police to report what's happening to him, but he's pleaded with me every time to not, or else he would break up with me. I am so effing worried for him. I feel like I can't do anything. He hasn't done anything to deserve any of this, and I've been trying to come up with anything, but I can't. He truly is a person who lives a simple life. The only reason I've come up with is that my boyfriend is one of the few minorities in a very conservative city, but even then, he has friends, connections, etc. In the comments, ADL19 says, "He owes a gambling debt or something." OP says, "I know I don't know everything about his life." Another comment was similar to yours, but he's never been the type of person to gamble or do anything illegal. I would have never expected my ex-wife to either. Highly educated, came from a good background, etc., etc. Sometimes it's the people you least expect. A lot of straight-A students I knew went to shit after high school, whether it's gambling or hard partying. Nobody would have known. They were so friendly and social, and it all went crashing down. OP better hope it's because of debt he owes, and he's not making a living selling his body for violent sex orgies. I hope not as well, that sounds intense. You know what, that sounds like a bit of a stretch. Lovingly, you've pushed back on every single possible reason people have commented. What do you think is happening? He's just running into doorknobs left and right? Babe, get real. Something bad's happening and this isn't normal. He obviously isn't the person you thought you knew, because the person you're in love with wouldn't come home mangled, right? I can tell you that this has never happened to me in my relationship. What does he do for work? OP is enabling it at this point. If it were the love of my life, the conversation would be about how he tells me what the hell is going on or the relationship is over. Wants to help, asks for advice, but pushes back on all of it. First rule of Fight Club. OP says, "I actually thought about that being the reason at first. I'm not even joking, but he's sad. I can tell from his face to his body language, everything. It's something bad. Really just sounds like he owes money to someone, or there's something else serious going on that could put you in danger. He needs to grow the hell up and tell you what's going on. Maybe he's sad because he keeps getting his ass kicked in Fight Club. Maybe he should enroll in martial arts so he can start winning." That's so grim. OP says, "I know you're joking, but I'm actually worried." Then you should tell him that he has the right to keep personal secrets, but when it's something this serious, then you have the right to know. After all, this impacts you. OP, please get one thing through your stubborn head. You may be in danger. You have no idea what the hell is going on. It could be anything. I highly suggest you do not have unprotected sex with him and don't touch his wounds. This man would rather break up with you than be open and honest with you and accept help. He is not relationship material. He is not the person you entered this relationship with. Stop enabling him. Pose an ultimatum, break up, stay with friends or family for a while. Do not open the door at night. Call the police if whoever's there refuses to go away. Oh my god, I can't even imagine having a partner like that coming home and then being like, you know what, no, I'm not going to tell you. And you know what, if you keep asking questions, we're breaking up. Just let it happen, okay? I'm very much uncomfortable thinking about that. And I imagine OP is too. And the fact that they're pushing against everyone's thought processes and guesses when OP is the one coming for advice to Reddit is also insane. Maybe both of these people need psychiatric help. I don't even think that therapy is a thing at this point. I think he needs to be institutionalized so we can figure out what the hell's going on and get him away from danger. Because maybe he's just had a mental break, doesn't realize it, and every time he comes home, he forgets about why he's so battered and bruised. That's my headcanon theory. You know, that's what we should do, OP. We should institutionalize him. It's a joke. It's a joke, please. And now, on to the updates. I asked my boyfriend yesterday about what was really going on, and I threatened to rope in my family, the police, and break up with him. I told him he was jeopardizing my own safety, and he had to tell me. After a lot of stalling, he eventually told me what it was. He's in a fight club. He's actually in a fight club. I can't. I guess the jokes were right. He's actually in a fight club like the movie. However, it's more complicated than he's just bored. He told me his family in Vietnam, specifically his mum, are pressuring him a lot to give them more and more money. They've told him that if he doesn't give them enough, they'll cut contact with him. And even though we both have pretty good jobs, he was struggling to reach their demands, and he didn't eat to ask me for money. He heard about the fight club from his friends, and at first he thought that it wasn't any good, but he told me that he was getting really stressed from his family situation, and getting hit would relieve some of it. And once he heard money was on the line, he decided to join it. You know, that's not my first guess as to why someone would want to join Fight Club. Maybe he does need to be institutionalized at this point. I'm really stressed, and getting my shit beaten up really fixes that stress, you know? That's the reason he refused to say anything about it, because like the movie, he followed the first rule of Fight Club. That's also why he comes home sad. He's only using the Fight Club as a way to cope and to earn some money on the side. That's also somewhat the reason he would plead with me to not contact the police whenever I told him that I would. Even though the actual Fight Club itself isn't illegal, a lot of illegal activities like drugs were being done in and of itself. I've talked to him about helping him with some money or therapy, but he told me that he wants to deal with his issues himself. He told me he doesn't want me to stress myself out just to help him. For now, I'll stay off, but I told him that I'll be helping myself by helping him if he's in a bad situation. In the comments, Stressy and Messy, that's definitely what this is, says, I don't know, man. If my family is threatening me to send money at all, I'm cutting contact. Asking me? Fine, absolutely, but threatening me, especially for more money than what I've been sending, nah, piss off. OP says, I would too, but Vietnamese culture is really family-oriented. My boyfriend told me that he has a hard time letting them go. There's always a first person in the family to break tradition. I totally get that it's hard, but the bottom line is that he's putting himself through physical pain and stress because of them. That's not what families should do to each other. I'm sure it'll take time, but I believe that he can do it. It took me until middle age to do it. In hindsight, of course I should have done it 15 to 20 years ago, but yeah, they have ways of sucking you back in. Won't get into details, but the guilt never really goes away. You just have to accept that there is no happy ending with a decision like this. I know your boyfriend wants to do this for his family in the name of tradition, but he shouldn't do it at the expense of his safety. To defy the laws of tradition is a crusade only for the brave. OP says, I told him that too, but he said he would try. But it's going to be for a while because he showed me just some of the payments he's giving to his family, and holy damn, the amount he's giving could actually pay some of our bills. See, that's unfair. He shouldn't be risking chronic traumatic encephalopathy or worse just because his parents are skint. I know it works different in other cultures, but the idea is that you're supposed to support each other's family equally, not one at the expense of the other. Unless you're fine staying in a relationship with someone who is very likely to suffer from many concussions going forward, I recommend telling him to either cut off his family and stop fighting, or leave him. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy is no joke, and I'm fairly certain that these underground fights don't have paramedics on standby in case of an injury. He's going down a path that he will be lucky to walk away from with massive, lasting physical and mental damage, if he's lucky enough to walk away at all. OP says, "The worst thing is that my boyfriend doesn't have any type of MMA background. He doesn't really know what he's doing." Even more of a reason why this is stupid. He's just at one of those boxing rings in like a bar in Thailand where when you go to the corner, they just hydrate you again with a beer and like, get back out there, come on, for king and country. Those are insane. Me reading the title, Lamau, what the hell? Me reading this post, Lamau, what the actual hell? And screw his family back in Vietnam too. Honestly, if he thought logically, he would see that the threat is nothing. So if he doesn't send them more money, they won't talk to him? If they don't talk to him, then they would get zero money. The amount that he is sending is better than no money at all, and they're in another country. It's not like they're having this much contact anyway. No red flags here. Nope. We all cope by going down to an underground fight club when working in healthcare. Yeah, that's totally valid. How does a pediatric nurse show up to work with bruises constantly and no alarms are raised? You know what? Don't yuck his yum. I'm sure he has a really good time down in Vietnamese fight club. He really is just running into a lot of doorknobs on the way to work, and that's how we're going to justify this one, okay? Thank you for sharing the story, OP. I do hope that he grows a spine and stops sending them money in the future, because who cares if they stop talking to him? If you guys can't afford bills and it's negatively affecting your life? Hey, just go put your life on the line so that we can get extra money from you. Cheers. This is the worst trade deal in the history of trade deals. Our next post is by user TA for No Weg, titled, "Am I the arsehole because I, 38 female, don't want to take my stepson 9 on vacation?" So my husband, 39, and I have been married for 5 years. We have 2 children of our own, both girls aged 5 and 2. I also have a son, 10, from a previous marriage, but I was widowed. My husband's ex is barely involved in stepson's life at all. They got divorced when stepson was 2, and his ex wanted a fresh start. So my husband did the decent, selfless thing and had complete custody of their son, even though he'd wanted shared custody. I got a bonus at work, and I really want to go on a vacation with just my family just once. We've been on family vacations altogether lots of times, but just once I want to spend my money going on vacation where I'm not looking after someone else's kid. I want stepson to stay with his mum while we go on vacation. My husband sees my point of view and is okay with it. I don't think that I'm being unreasonable at all. My mum found out what I was planning and says that I am being a complete asshole. These are the reasons that she says I could be an asshole. 1. My mum says that if stepson's mum isn't properly involved in his life, I should be even more involved in his life to compensate. I think this is a completely unfair expectation. 2. She also says that I'm being a hypocrite taking my son, but I think that's totally different because my son doesn't have another parent. I'm all he has got. If stepson's mum won't take him just for once, then obviously he'll come on vacations with us, but I don't think that I'm the asshole to ask if I can have a vacation with just my own family one time. It's not like I hate stepson or something. He's a nice kid, but he's just not mine. Am I the asshole? In the comments, Big Tree says, quote, "Just my family, just once? Your husband's son is your family, and you better not ever let that kid hear you say otherwise. Jesus Christ. I'm not looking after someone else's kid. Homie, that ship effing sailed when you married a man with a child. I don't think that I'm the asshole to ask if I can have a vacation with my own family just one time. Wanting a vacation with your family is fine. Deciding that your stepson doesn't count as family is messed up beyond belief and definitely makes you an asshole. You're the asshole." I couldn't have said it any better myself. The audacity of this woman is honestly astonishing. I've been with my boyfriend for about 2.5 years, and I literally could never even dream of trying to tell him that I didn't want one of his 3 children to come with us on vacation. His oldest, 16 male, isn't even biologically his, and he still takes him whenever he picks up his biological children from their mother's house. We would never, ever exclude him from any family fun trip that we were taking. Opie, you're definitely a huge asshole in this situation, and it's weird that your own mother was the one to tell you this, and not your husband. When you married your husband, his son became your stepson, just like your son became his stepson. How would you feel if he wanted to exclude your son? You said yourself that your stepson's mother isn't a very attentive mother, and maybe that's not the same thing as having a deceased parent, but damn, lady, have some goddamn empathy. My money, my family. I'm heartbroken for this child. He was already abandoned by his biological mother, and now the mother figure in his life doesn't want him either. Doesn't consider him family. How awful for this poor boy. I hope his dad realizes what he married and gets out of it so his son can be in a safe place where he is only surrounded by people that love him and want him. Dad is obviously just as much an asshole. He only begrudgingly accepted full custody and is totally on board with her plans. What kind of parent marries someone that treats their child like garbage and is okay with it? A garbage one. From a child whose stepmother treated her own children better, you're an unbelievable asshole, and you should be ashamed of yourself. How effing dare you? I feel bad for him just because if this would even cross your mind, you probably treat him way worse at home too. Just my family just once? You married his father. You are his family. And in his family, you are the evil stepmother. Yeah, hard to argue with that one. I mean, when I did that live stream with the 2 families coexisting in a house and that turned into a shit show, it still wasn't okay that this stepchild was being excluded. Before all of that extra information came out, obviously, but yeah, until that point, it wasn't okay. In this one here, you've married someone with children, especially young children. He's 9 years old. I'd understand if he's like 18 to 25, you'd be like, hey, we're just doing with the kiddies. We married this guy late, I didn't really raise you. That would be different, but this is a child that you've been raising that only knows you as a solid mother figure in their life, and you're being a downright disgusting person here. I don't even think you care if he cuts you off in the future if you continue down this path. So, I mean, you can do this if you want to, but you're going to cause a lot of division that already apparently exists in this family, but you're going to make that rift even deeper. Proceed with caution because you're definitely the asshole here, OP. And now, on to the updates. So we definitely won't be going on vacation without stepson. After a couple hours of replies, I decided to show this to my husband. We sat down and had a really long talk about it. He told me he's never been comfortable with my attitude to stepson, but didn't know how to say to me before. I don't want to be a bad person, I just never thought of stepchildren being yours. I don't think it'd be easy for anyone to accept this level of criticism, but all your replies have shown me that I have a lot of work to do. As many of you suggested, and so did my husband, I intend to see a therapist to help with that. As I said, I don't hate stepson in any way. I have never been deliberately cruel to him. I've just always thought of him as my husband's child. But I realize my mindset needs to change. So I'm going to start working on that. I want my family to be the best that it can be, and I need to accept that it includes my stepson. I understand that now, and I'm going to start seeing a therapist to become a better person. We've also talked about maybe having family therapy too. I've also made up with my mum, and she's 100% behind the changes that I want to make in my life. It wasn't easy to hear everything you said, but I understand that I needed to hear it. And now onto the latest update. When I made my original post, I was told by literally thousands of people that I was the asshole. It helped me see how wrong I was and had been for the last 5 years. I booked a therapy appointment the following week and started working through my issues. My own father died when I was less than a year old. I don't even remember him. My mother married another man when I was 7, but he left when I was 11 and I never saw him again. It hurt me in a way that I'd never processed before. I loved him. He'd been my dad. And suddenly, he was just gone. That taught me that step relatives weren't part of your family, they weren't forever. I always thought that I was doing better than my ex-stepdad because I provided for my stepson and I stayed in his life. I was better than my ex-stepdad. But I made my stepson feel the same way that my ex-stepdad made me feel when he left me, and I regret it so much. A little while after I started therapy, we started family therapy too. The therapist helped me explain to my son the way I felt about step relatives and why I'd always behaved the way that I did. He cried and said he was afraid that I just didn't like him, and we had the first proper talk that we had ever had. I told him that wasn't true, and I had just been a bad step-parent like my ex-stepdad had been to me. My relationship with my stepson is so much better now. We spend time together, just the two of us, and except for this post, I never call him or think of him as my stepson. He's my son. I accept now that he'll always be my son, that unlike my ex-stepdad, he is forever. Even if something happens between me and his dad, he will still be my son. Most of all, he always called me by my first name, but last Thanksgiving, he asked to start calling me Mum. It made me so happy, and I told him that I loved him, and he said that he loved me too. And since then, he always just calls me Mum. A lot of people also talked about the ways my husband needs to improve, to be more assertive and protective of his children. He knows that. It's very easy to see the problem when they're presented to you all at once in a Reddit post, but when things happen day to day, it's a lot harder to realize how issues are building up, but he's working hard, like we both are, to try to make our family the happiest that it can be. We both know that we still have to keep working at this. I'm still in therapy, and we're still having family therapy, but I'm grateful to work at it. I'm grateful to have all of my children. It's very hard for me to write this, to think about the way that things were before I started therapy. It makes me cry every time that I think about it, but I want to thank you, Reddit. I wrote my original post just looking for validation for my own point of view, and I never thought the internet could change my life this way. But it has. I feel like for the first time, we are truly a family. Thank you all. In the comments, LionTamer74 says, quote, "It's very easy to see the problems when they're presented to you all at once in a Reddit post, but when things happen day to day, it's a lot harder to realize how issues are building up." I think this is behind a lot of issues that we read about on Reddit. Makes me want to write a summary of my life and see what red flags show up. Keep a diary and write in it whenever you can, then go back and read in a year. You'll see patterns emerge. Like how I never kept a diary because I knew my mum would find it and read it, and the one time I tried, she found it, read it, and then she told me, laughing, how she found it and read it. Quick edit, that is a good suggestion, and I'm making light of my history. It's too on the nose, and I just thought that it was funny. A lot of times, things that people who grew up in dysfunctional families think is funny is just trauma disguised as humor, and we only find out when we tell the story and see other people react with shock, horror, or pity. I remember when my brother married his wife, my mum was kind of distant with my niece at first, as my brother had only been with her mum for under 3 weeks when they eloped, because she was terrified of getting attached to the baby just for the relationship to not work and never be allowed around her again. It wasn't until my stepdad asked, "But what if the relationship works, and you wasted all this time that you could have been loving her?" And it really changed the way that she interacted with my niece. My brother has since legally adopted my niece, but he and sister-in-law just had their vow renewal, after 10 years of marriage, on Sunday as well. Classic story where your parenting choices end up speaking to what you felt you lacked as a child. Her stepdad abandoned her, so she thought she was fulfilling her end of the deal by not abandoning her stepson, never realizing that that's a minimum requirement. Lady went full on, "You can't abandon who you were never there for in the first place." At least she can admit her faults. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.